Welcome back to the Orca Shop. My name's Rod. Hey, we've got a little something different today. Nothing to do with boat building, but to do with some interesting tool that I was gifted some months ago. And it's kind of just been sitting. And I thought, you know what? It's time to actually kind of tune this thing up and maybe get it back into working order. Well, it actually works, but it needs a little good cleanup, I guess, basically what it is. So let's have a look. So what I have here is a crosscut saw. I guess you'd call it a full-on miter saw because you can change the angles and all. Let's see if we can focus in on the number of the saw. So it states that the size, there's a lot of focus there, is number 2, and the design by Miller Falls is number 74. And then it just has a whole bunch of presets on here. Square pause. Okay, so patented August 6th, 1895. Again, patented October 23rd, 1906. And again, patented September 26th, 1909. Came complete with the saw. The saw is a Diston. So I have no clue as to how old this unit is, but that certainly gives us an idea of when it was made. So some of the features are showing a little, they're not really worn, maybe a bit of rust. The surface here actually has some little sort of dimply feeling on here. I assume that's so that the wood doesn't slide around and move. And the gauge on the miter saw itself is, I can read them, but there's a little bit of dirt and rust in there. This thing is pretty well fully functional. So let's set it up and see if we can cut something with it. So we can move the angle by simply turning this lever. Pushes a stop down in the base here, and the saw can turn. And it actually moves quite fluidly. There's no resistance whatsoever in there. And then it has some preset stops. So if I release it so that the button inside there, it'll come, and we slide it over, it will click. And that is, I don't know what that is, 9 degrees? Not sure. Second, sorry, let's see here. Turning it that way. Second stop would be, it's really hard to see. Actually, we'll go the other way because the numbers on this side are a little bit better. So yeah, that is 4 degrees, no, what? That's 0. So yeah, 9 degrees. I wonder why they've chosen 9 degrees. And the standards are sort of 22.5, 45, 90, so on and so forth. Has another preset at, 22.5. That makes sense. And then another preset at 45. So let's get a piece of wood and see how sharp the saw is. So the saw can be set so that it'll only go down so far into the wood. I suppose if you wanted to do a like a lap joint of some sort, or to cut small dados into something, and it slides quite nicely through them. We'll just set that back and lock it into 0 or into 90. Well, I've got myself a standard 2x4, fairly dry. Let's just see how easy this is. Of course, it would probably help if my workbench wasn't on wheels and the actual unit was bolted down to a table. But it's pretty sharp. I mean, it is a fine crosscut saw. Pretty nice cut, and that's pretty accurate, 90 degrees. So time to take it apart and clean it up. First thing we do is we can take the saw out. It should just slide straight out. That's a pretty heavy duty saw. Cast steel, Henry Diston, Philadelphia, Diston & Sons. So on the unit here, we'll just turn it around a bit so that the saw doesn't go right through and start sawing into metal. There are presets or stops, so that as the saw drops down, it can't go any further down than that. So I've cut through the wood, but I haven't cut through the metal itself and dulling the saw. So I've set the back and front. These units literally can just come straight out, to which the saw guide slides in, and then there are some little notches on the side here. I'm going to have to figure out exactly what those notches are for. Do a little bit of research on these things. Now, so these we'll take off. I'll clean them up. And I don't think there is a front or back to any of these, but there is this sort of spring-loaded button here, which sort of prevents you from, will prevent the saw from coming straight out and wobbling around. But to get that out, we just pull the button, so it's got a notch cut into the shaft. Secondly, let's see, we can take off this slide here, because if I'm cutting a shorter piece of wood, maybe I want the guides, these two guides, to be closer together, and that is simply on the bottom here. We just undo this from a large carriage bolt, fits into the slot on the top together so we don't lose parts, and then this particular guide can slide right off the shaft as well. So when turning this, it's turning this square knob here and pushes down. I should probably, if I can do without it. Come on, get back on there. It will turn this shaft here, I'll put it back on, so that it lifts this away so that the miter can move to various angles. And then when you turn it back, it should spring load into place. It's still back at the zero. I'll take that piece off. I'm wondering how much else to take off. I mean, the Japanning on here is not that bad, I'm assuming. I mean, there are some markings on here, or maybe they're not markings, they're just foundry marks. But we can take the base off, this face base here, and can we take the back plate off? No, that appears to be all one. So let's start with taking off. The legs will come off, and surprisingly enough, after all the years, I don't know, it's been stored quite well, but I don't know about this one. Maybe an impact driver, but I do know that the smaller screws that are holding the base plate on come out pretty easily. How many there are? That's probably the main thing that really needs to be cleaned up, shined up a little bit. I don't know whether we can turn this over this way, it would be easier to view and to see. So that allows the base plate to come right off. Ah! Spider! Well, that started me. Not that I'm really afraid of spiders, but when they come at you that fast. So someone's been living in there. So that's there, and this is here. This is pretty skookum steel. I think I'm going to get a small container for all of this so that we don't lose pieces. Good old dairy container. We know where that goes, we know where those go. I don't want to strip any parts because, well, I'm sure I can find something similar, but then it's not original. wonder what the value of this is. I think I've kind of checked on eBay and that, and one in good condition might be worth around $300-400. Not sure whether I plan to keep it or sell it, but kind of just making it out as a simple project here to keep myself busy. This one is not going to work out. I'll spray a little WD-40 on there. Now, if you are Canadian, you need to get out to your local hardware store and stock up on WD-40, because apparently this product does not meet new, I don't know what, environmental aerosol regulations. So WD-40 will be no longer available in Canada as of January 1st, 2024. So I think I have a couple of cans here. I mean, I use very little of it anyways, but I want to get that screw bolt out of there. I mean, WD-40 is also very useful in cleaning parts. What happens when I take this one off? What does this do? Oh, that's just, I don't know what it is. Now there's a hole up here. Is there supposed to be some sort of screw in there? I don't know. Of course, the nice thing about videoing the whole thing is, you know, when I have to come put it back together, I can just review my own video. Don't know whether I should take any more parts out. I don't really see any need for it, because some of these, I'm assuming that probably slides out. Does this slide out as well? So those that have owned one before and have done this are probably wondering, well, you know, why didn't you just watch some videos, Rod, and see how someone else has done it? But then that takes all the fun out of it. You know, this takes me back to being a, you know, elementary school and taking my bike apart every month, you know, lubing up the bearings, figuring out how it all worked, adjusting everything and making sure it all went back together. I'm assuming that comes out of there, so this shaft is going into here, this whole unit will come off. Let's give it a try. Yeah. Long shaft, tapered in there so that it self-centers. Now what does that do then? In the back here, I wonder, is that attaching the base? Ah, there we go. Okay, I'm gonna start it, see what happens there. Okay, that's taking that off. Can't get that out. Oh, it should fit through there. Oh yeah, okay, just got to center it in there. So that's as far as we go, I think. Insofar as getting everything apart, ready for cleanup. So the one thing that kind of needs to come off is the miter gauge. A couple of the screws here are kind of filled with gunk. I'm just going to try and clean out any, I don't know if it's rust or whatever, but if I burn those slots out of there with too much exertion, that's not going to be good. Let's hit them with a little WD-40 and let them sit there for a second. So before taking it to the grinder with the wire wheel, I'm just going to have a look-see to see how much will come off with just a simple wire wheel here. Yeah, so what's under there? There is some red. I wonder if it's been... Interesting how the red is under the rust. Well, I think it's time to go to the internet and see what that base is supposed to look like, because the rest I know is pretty well supposed to be black, and that's not an issue. But we'll polish everything up with some light emery cloth, light shafts like this, so they slide nice and easily, and we'll get her back together. Well, a quick internet search with Google Photos shows that yes, this used to be bright red. Would it be worth me painting it? Because I don't really know whether it's just a paint on there or some sort of red enamel. Now, what I don't have with this one, I see on the other photos, is there are fittings that go down through these slots that would act as hold downs and or a stop. So if you want to cut, a bunch of pieces exactly 4 inches long, you can put a stop in here, cut, slide in, the same way we do with a power saw. And then start cleaning pieces and putting it back together. How much do we take off on this? Not very much, I don't think. We're just going to spray it down and wipe it off, I think. I don't know about anybody else, but am I the only one that kind of likes the smell of WD-40? And I'm just going to take a little bit of sandpaper to this surface here, pivoting point for the miter. I don't know if it's been scored or that's just straight from the milling process. Didn't really need to be perfect. Any surface where parts are sliding on, just to get any burrs off. So my mistake, now that I've got it apart, I can read the whole thing. Miller Falls Company, Miller Falls Tools, Miller Falls, Masada Langdon, Acme miter box. Size actually is 2.5, number 74. And then it has all of the presets. Yeah, so 7 degrees, 7.5 degrees, 9, 15, 18, 22.5, 30, 36, 45. Seeing how much we can get off of this. Without taking the markings. Okay, in the vise, I don't want to mar any parts, so we've got these handy dandy magnetic vise protectors or jaw protectors. You take its 400 wet dry sandpaper. We're just going to leave it dry. Oh. Get that out a bit. Vise is not that old. I bought it, I don't know, a year and a half ago. I wish I'd bought a bigger one because the jaws on here, they don't really bind down on something near the end and everything's always pivoting in there. Drives you nuts that you can't actually clamp something tight without it moving. And I'm talking hard pieces of metal. Quite a bit of gunk in the slot itself, so I'm just going to clean it out of there. Not sure if this is broken in the past, because that looks to me like a brazing weld on there, and it is not on the other one. I have spent some time just sort of cleaning all the parts up with the wire wheel. Some of them are too small. I'm not even going to bother taking them to a more powerful wire wheel, but let's start with putting the legs back on. And assuming they go like so. The pivoting arm. Wait, no, I took some parts off the inside here. That would have been the stop. So, does it turn? So I push that down or up, as the case may be. So locking would be down. So the problem is that I can't turn that around. So that means I need to slide it out and switch the where this locks into there. So I would think if that is unlocking it, I think we have to have that facing up. So I have a quarter turn there. Get you to go back in there now. Okay, so lock, move, lock, okay. Actually, it's going to play in there, so okay, other than the base plates, I'm left with one piece, which, where did it go? Oh, wait a minute, it comes up from under there. I know. Okay. Close. Voila. After, I don't know, a couple of hours of disassembling, cleaning, and reassembling and lubricating some parts, the saw's back together. The only thing I haven't put back on are the base plates here. I haven't quite decided whether I'm just going to go pick myself up a can of spray, trim-clad red paint and apply it on there. I'm kind of wondering or thinking that if I make these look brand new, is it going to detract from the rest of the saw? But anyways, it works very well, slides super well, and the posts here with a bit of cleaning and lubrication go up and down much more effectively, so they will slide down as the saw curves its way through any pieces of lumber. So if you liked the video, hey, consider giving me a thumbs up, maybe even become a subscriber. There are other projects coming in the shop. There is a new boat that's going to be built from a kit. So thank you very much for watching. See you next time.